Tariff war is the wrong war to fight. It's the wrong war for the United States as well as for China. And no one, either China or the United States, can win the trade war. Now, secondly, for President Trump or his close confidants or advisors in Washington to expect that the trade war or the tariff war can force China to kneel down and kowtow to the United States is completely indulging in fantasy. China will not surrender to the United States as far as the trade war is concerned. As a matter of fact, there is a sense of determination in Beijing that it is the United States that need to have an end of the trade war now, mostly because of domestic political considerations for President Trump. And China is in no sense of urgency for a quick wrap.
Got a very impressive goal to completely get rid of extreme poverty in the country, and has a dedicated group that's working on that, keeping track of the progress. So we partnered with them to help out, including in the health area. So we have a rich set of programs that are in the country, all of which we feel good about.
Compared with years ago, would you say that China is playing a quite different role in global governance?
Oh, no doubt. China is over 20% of the world's population, so you always would have expected that. But if you go back to 1980, China was not that engaged, and other countries weren't paying as much attention because, in fact, the trade levels were very, very low, and people really underestimated what would happen in China. Since 1980, the growth of the economy, including lots of innovation, now China's one of the top 2 economies in the world. Lots of countries are trading with China. Lots of Chinese companies are going out in the world with their products. And so, yes, on the political side, engaging in the UN institutions, contributing to those institutions, thinking about foreign aid. The conference with the African countries, the FOCAC, which has been done almost 10 years now, that's a great example of how China is now a big part of countries working together, which when I first went was not the case at all.
You've been focusing on mainly on 3 areas: health, energy, and climate change. So can you give me a order of priority on these 3 sectors?
Well, my biggest work through the Gates Foundation is the global health work. Now, at the same time, the sad fact about climate change is that it's the poorest who will suffer, even though they have done nothing to cause the problem. And yet the temperature increase near the equator is affecting particularly farmers who have very small amounts of land. The one that concerns me the most, though, is the Paris Agreement, because we need all the countries to engage on this. Most importantly, the United States and China. Without them setting a really good example of driving down the emissions and innovating to make the cost of that much lower, then we will never achieve the goals of staying below 2 degrees of warming. We'll go potentially way past that. And so it is critical that future U.S. leadership reverse this decision and rejoin the Paris Accord. China showed a strong commitment to be one of the leaders, both in reducing its own emissions, but also in helping to invent new approaches that will help all the countries be able to reduce their emissions. We do need the U.S. To get engaged and to really work with China to get all the countries engaged, to make it so very hard for a country not to participate. That's the only way you get to global zero, which is what the goal is.
In terms of the ceremony, it wasn't too special, but what's peculiar about this visit are the guests themselves and the experiences of the Philippines in the hands of these guests out in the West Philippine Sea. Arriving ahead of the ship was China Coast Guard Director General Major General Wang Zhongkai. He was given honors and even trooped the line, part of a ceremony where he walks along a phalanx of Philippine Coast Guard personnel in salute. Afterwards, journalists were ushered out to Pier 15, and we see China Coast Guard Ship 5204 being pulled to port. Again, personnel of the Philippine Coast Guard, as the hosts, served as the welcoming committee with a band playing and troops